Well, was that the win of the frickin' season for the Penguins or not? I mean, from the start of the game to the finish, Pittsburgh absolutely took it. And I mean, took it to the two-time defending champions. Of course, that is the Tampa Bay Lightning. I have a full game recap episode coming up right now for you all. Evgeni Malkin's brilliance, Sidney Crosby's brilliance, the awesome defensive play, Tristan Jarry, John Cooper's Phil Diaper. I got it all for you. And of course, some post-game takeaways coming up right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Also follow the show's Twitter at @LO_Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. Wow, we have a lot to get into for this episode. I'm fired up. I mean, that was a hell of a game by your Pittsburgh Penguins tonight. I said in my tweet on my personal Twitter that this was probably a top 3 to win of the season. This was probably their best win of the season. The vibes were there right from the opening minute when the Penguins were just launching everything at the net and out skating and out chancing the Lightning. And it continued for the entire freaking game. The Lightning barely even had any scoring chances. I mean, if I go to natural stat trick here, the Lightning only had one high danger chance in the third period. When they were down 3-1 going in, they only had 3 high danger chances in the first period. They pushed back a little bit in the second period at times, but for the most part, the Penguins just absolutely dominated them both offensively and defensively. I think that's honestly my biggest takeaway from this game outside of getting Malkin. I'm going to get to him, of course, in just a second. But, if this game were on a national audience, I think you would see more and more media on a national scale say that the Penguins can play with Tampa Bay. And that's what I'm going to say for you all right here. The Penguins can not only play with them, but they can push back against them and they can beat them. I know those 3 games against the Lightning this year were, different in their own way. The first one, the Penguins were just so banged up and they were able to get a lot of depth scoring and play well defensively. I know tonight it was, a lot of it was about the Stars. The second game, I thought Pittsburgh played okay. They were pretty banged up, but, Tampa Bay just had a lot more firepower in lineup, and Andrei Vasilevsky also showed up. But tonight, it was just, I shouldn't say it was both of those combined because it wasn't, but tonight you just had the Penguins dominate them in a fashion that I really haven't seen since 2016. This is the first time the Penguins have won the season series in 5 years. It's pretty crazy to think about. But, again, just with how fast the Penguins skated tonight, with how they defended, with who, they got, goals from in the lineup, this is a team that can beat Tampa Bay in the playoffs. Obviously, Tampa's going to play much better than this in a 7-game series. I'm sure John Cooper is going to give it to them after the game, and they're not going to play like this, too many times during the year. Remember, this is Tampa Bay. This is only their 5th home regulation loss. 2 of them have come to the Penguins in blowout fashion. Penguins have scored 11 goals in 2 games at Amalie Arena. The Lightning have only scored 3 at home against Pittsburgh. I mean, and again, I know regular season hockey and playoff hockey are 2 different things. I'm not going to deny that. But, what I saw tonight is a team, that can play with the best of the best. We all know coming into this was going to be such a huge stretch for the Penguins. They're going to be tested. How are they going to fare against these really elite teams? Obviously a team that, was gunning for 3 cups in a row, just like the Penguins were a few short years ago. But this first test, check mark. That was an A+ performance from everyone in the lineup. I don't even think I can be negative towards any player on the team for this game. And you all know me for as long, if you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, heck, even if it's for a week, I'll be as objective as I can be. If a player plays bad, I'm going to dump on them. But tonight, I really don't think any Penguin skater, was bad. And obviously the best player on the ice. When are teams, I tweeted this, of course, when are teams going to stop screwing around with Evgeni Malkin? Bad stuff usually happens when you make him mad about 85 to 90% of the time. That shit that it was, the shift basically when, Pierre where Bellemare is going at him a little bit, then Geno comes over, gives him a huge hit along the boards, and then comes in on a breakaway, fires it, glove side pass Vasilevsky, and just has a nice celebration, has a couple words, I think, for Tampa Bay's bench. You don't want to keep making this guy mad. And, he was on another level this game. He was the main, reason why the Penguins got that first goal as well. Go back and watch it because he gets the puck coming out of the blue line, always does his little retreat, right? But, comes out, turns the corner, starts galloping as he always does when he's fully healthy, gets it to Kapanen, who makes a great read to get it to Heinen, who then gets his 12th of the year to make it 1-0. And obviously the floodgates open right after that. But if it weren't for Malkin at full speed there going into the zone where no one can stop him, that goal is not scored. He has his legs back completely. This is the best I've seen of Evgeni Malkin since, maybe the halfway point of last season before he got hurt. He has 24 points in 20 games. He's already at double-digit goals, and he has played only 20 freaking games this year. For those people that said that he's going to kill the structure, he's going to kill the vibe or whatever, I hope you're eating that crow right now. This team is a completely different animal when he is on the ice. The Penguins power play since he came back in early January, number 1 in the league in power play efficiency. That is how much of a difference he makes in the lineup. And I know they played well without him. Don't get me wrong. I saw the record. But with him in the lineup, the team is that much better. He was just a force all night long. If he's going to keep playing like this, and if Sid's going to keep, kicking ass and taking names as well, the sky is the limit. And overall, again, with this performance, I should say, if the Penguins can consistently play like this down the stretch into the playoffs, the sky truly is the limit. This is the blueprint for the Penguins to go make a deep playoff run for the first time since 2017. Stellar defense, great goaltending, depth scoring, your stars showing up, all of that. And, obviously a little bit of pushback, boom. That is all the team needs. I think obviously they're going to need a little bit of luck to go their way. Any championship team needs luck here, but that is the blueprint for your Penguins to go on a Stanley Cup run. And I did not expect it to happen tonight. That's for sure. I thought this was going to be a much closer game just because of how Tampa was playing coming into this game. I mean, they had won 5 in a row, 8 out of their last 10. I know the Penguins won 6 out of their last 10 in February, but they were kind of struggling coming in. They played the Rangers and the Blue Jackets good, but before then, they weren't playing their best hockey. Heck, even in those 2 games, they didn't play some of their best hockey. But, this was a December/January performance for the Penguins. And, it was nothing short of awesome. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to get into Sidney Crosby's goal, how that was able to basically be set up and how the power play continues to hum at a very good rate. Brock McGinn's goal, and how he was able to beat Andrei Vasilevsky there. And, obviously we got to get into, the scrum, that led John Cooper to being ejected, and also your listener takeaways. I haven't done those in a while. I'm going to save those for the third segment of today's show. But before I get to that, football might be over for this season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, play performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is the number 1 spot for all of your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season, and it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Also follow the show's Twitter at @L_Penguins. So the Penguin power play goal that was able to make it 2-0. That was probably the power play of the year. The passing that I saw, and I know all of you that listen to this show that you all saw, was just nothing short of sensational. They were getting plenty of chances before Sid was able to convert. I believe it was Russ pass that got it to Crosby. Vasilevsky was all over the place. He's able to fire it into a half empty net, gets his 17th of the year. But Letang and Malkin were playing catch at the point. Nothing looked even close to being rushed. And the Penguins were also not even trying to be, the Harlem Globetrotters or anything. I know they sometimes try to do that on some power plays, but this was a very taking care of business kind of power play. But I also did notice that Tampa Bay's penalty killing wasn't particularly good there. They were kind of just sitting back a little bit, letting the Penguins do whatever they want. And when you give the Penguins, a team with that much firepower on their top unit, that much time and space, they're going to make you pay virtually every time. And I'm surprised that they didn't, be as aggressive as a team like, maybe Columbus was on Sunday, or even before that, last week against New Jersey, because those two teams were really pressuring the Penguins at the point. That is how I think this power play gets slowed down. When they're actively being pressured and they're forced to make, quicker than normal reads, that sometimes leads to an errant pass and then, some shorthanded odd man rushes or even breakaways. So, thankfully that didn't happen tonight. And the Lightning basically just said, okay, we're going to give you a free pass to roam in our zone. And, Sidney Crosby was able to make it 2-0 off that power play chance. But, again, just having Geno out there especially makes this unit so much better. It was already playing, decently well up until he came back. But, these last couple of months, again, you want to put the Penguins on the power play, you do it at your own risk, because, they have just been scoring basically at least one of their goals per game now is on the power play. So, teams want to keep doing that, that's their bed to lie in. The scrum, there's a few scrums obviously in the second period. Corey Perry does what Corey Perry does. I'm not surprised. That's how he's been for the last however many years he's been in the league. Excuse me. I mean, it's been at least 15 years, but, has an obvious penalty that's not called after he slashes Mark Friedman's stick. And then Jari basically just gives him a look and then basically just, sticks Jari up high. And then Friedman basically is just a total lunatic, and slams him down. Good on him. I've never cared for Corey Perry. You have John Cooper barking at the refs. His diaper is obviously very full. It also was pretty weird tonight how many diapers that the Lightning players, have, because it was just like all they were doing all night was just complaining to the officials. And don't get me wrong, I thought the officiating was horrendous. Wes McCauley was calling a terrible game. There were obvious penalties that I think for both teams were not being called, but I think at times Lightning players are just going a bit too far. And that's exactly what you saw, even behind the bench with Cooper. He was giving it to McCauley and, he ended up getting ejected. And I think some of the Tampa Bay announcers said that that's one of the first times they've ever seen Cooper be, that hot during a game and even ejected from a game, because he's usually pretty composed from what I've watched in the playoffs and the regular season. But, hope he does get his, maybe gets a diaper change after the game. I can say the same for Patrick Maroon. Don't really know what was up his tree all game. He was just, taking runs at some players. I don't really know what was going on there. Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, again, taking a run at Evgeni Malkin, pissing him off. GG's in the chat, as I like to say, my little gaming term there. So just really weird. I don't know if that's a nightly occurrence for the Lightning. I don't think it is. I know I don't watch a lot of Lightning games outside of obviously in the playoffs, but it was definitely not a good look for them. That's for sure. And, as one of my followers said to me on Twitter, the bully doesn't like being bullied. And that's exactly what the Penguins did to the Lightning tonight. Switching gears a little bit to Brock McGinn's goal. Just a really nice, he kind of deceived the shot a little bit. In my opinion, it looked like he was going to go 5-hole, but, Vasilevsky, he kind of went down a little bit when I rewatched it, and then which allowed Brock to see the blocker side, mostly wide open, and then he fired it there, to get another goal. This is a player, excuse me, that has been really close to breaking out again. He's had plenty of really quality chances from right on the doorstep, heck, even 15, 20 feet out, that have just not been going in due to some really good saves from some goalies. But tonight, he was finally able to cash in and get another goal this season. He has just been a great fit for the Penguins, continues to play solid defensively. Obviously, glad that he's, scoring offensively now. And he's the perfect tandem replacement. I mean, if you all have been listening to my podcast for a little bit, you all know that I think Brock is a better version of Brandon Tanev. So that was a massive goal. It was 2-1 at the time. Chris Letang had just had kind of a pretty bad giveaway. If there's one negative, I guess, it's that play can't be made by Tanger. He has to go either to one side of the ice or the other. He can't go right up the middle where two Tampa Bay players are. Bad things will happen. And of course, Bellemare is able to take it, come in on a mini breakaway, score past Tristan. That was Tampa Bay's only goal of the night. But, it's a decision that, Chris has to be better than it. And I know he will. He's a great player. Sometimes, the great players make bad decisions with the puck. That was one of them. I'm not going to get too mad at him for it. There's really no need to harp on him for that. But yeah, Brock got that huge goal. Obviously, I already touched on Evgeni Malkin's amazing breakaway goal. Jake Gensel gets the empty netter to make it 5-1. Finally, I'm glad that he is starting to score a bit again. He's been playing really well and he's been getting a lot of chances. It's just, the puck is not going in the net for him as it did a couple months ago. I'm sure that's going to regress. He's one of the best finishers in the league. He is going to be completely fine, to say the least. Mark Friedman, he's going to be brought up obviously in the listener takeaways coming up in the next segment here, but he continues to impress me night in and night out. It's pretty crazy to think about, just how good he's been. And, he's only played in a handful of games this year, but been great in the defensive zone, saved a couple of goals, jumping into the play offensively. And he's doing all of this on his offside. He's not even playing on the right freaking side. He's playing on the left, and he's definitely making me eat crow right now, because I was someone who wanted POJ in the lineup to see what he can do, because he's lit up Wilkes-Barre this year. But this is a player that's not going to be coming out of the lineup anytime soon. If he keeps this up, who knows? Maybe perhaps Mike Sullivan's going to have to make a tough roster decision after the trade deadline. I know Matheson is week to week right now. I'm sure he's going to come back in, but could it be for someone else? Not really sure. I thought all the defensemen, were great tonight. This was a big bounce back game from Brian Dumoulin. John Marino had a couple really nice defensive plays. He's slowly, I think, starting to turn around. Marcus Pettersson was solid. The fourth line I thought was great. This was just a textbook amazing win for the Penguins. I can't, say it better than that. Friday night's going to be electric. They're going to play down at Raleigh. The Hurricanes are going to be pissed. I will say that right now. They just got blanked on Thursday night against the Washington Capitals, a team that has been really struggling as of late. They had just lost 6 in a row at home before this. So Pittsburgh is going to get Carolina's best in that one. And I would not be surprised if Tristan Jarry starts that game. He did not face a lot of shots tonight. I believe it was only 19. I'm pretty positive. At least I'm going to make sure of this, actually. Let me just Google the schedule here real quick. I know I don't have this in front of me. I am a complete and utter moron, but I just want to make sure I am fully. Yeah, no, he only faced 21 shots tonight. Had 20 saves. I'd send him out there again. I know that might be, maybe an unpopular opinion, but you're playing Carolina. You're only 3 points behind them. They have games in hand. If you can win in regulation against Carolina tomorrow, you're 1 point behind them now. And it's a full race for the division. I know it is still a race, but, it's going to be that much closer, I think, towards the end of the season. But coming up in the next segment, we're going to get to the listener takeaways, what you all thought of the game. I'm really glad I can incorporate your views into this podcast. At times, it's always one of my favorite things to do and something I do want to keep doing. So look for that coming up here in the last segment. All right, we're back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter, @LO_Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So a lot of takeaways, I think, to get to here. I appreciate everyone sending them in. We'll start here with Nick Berlansky. Of course, he's one of the hosts of the Tip of the Iceberg podcast. Go check that show out there with I call it the Nick and Nick show. They do a very stellar job. He says when the Penguins want to, they can absolutely shut down anyone defensively. One Letang turnover separated them from a perfect performance, and another Tristan Jarry shutout. Yeah, as I said, Nick, outside of that, this was a perfect game by Pittsburgh. And, I also said this is the blueprint if they want to go on a deep playoff run. They got to start out a game exactly how they did. They got to finish their chances. They got to get stellar goaltending, and they got to play that good defensively. Heck, even a little less better defensively will still get it done. But this is a championship performance that I saw tonight, and something that I didn't see much the last few seasons. I saw it at times last year, but this year, with this team and how good they are, this is. I think they hopefully just sent a message that they also can be said that they are a Stanley Cup contender with some of the other teams. Jackson Hollister says a full 60-minute effort, in my opinion. I don't know about the underlying numbers, but it seemed like they had the puck for 80% of the time, and they actually finished on their chances. Yes, they very much finished today, Jackson. Underlying numbers wise, I'll tell you, man, 61% of the shot attempts, even strength for the Penguins. They also had 58% of the scoring chances, 55% of the high danger chances, 56% of the expected goals. If I go to all situations, 63% of the shot attempts, 61% of the scoring chances, 55% for high danger, and 60% of the expected goals for. Dominating against one of the best freaking teams in hockey. He said, people always say this team needs grit. No, they don't, but they need one more top six forward. Yeah, 100%. I saw some weird people saying that they need Nick Delorier or something like that when the Penguins were being pushed around. The Penguins responded just fine. I don't know where that kind of talk is coming from. They don't need a weird deterrent or something like that. What they need, as Jackson said, is another winger that they can stick on the second or third line. And you did mention Jackson. Kapanen played well. I'm not comfortable with him either. I think this is probably still like a blind squirrel finds a nut. But this definitely was a big step in the right direction for Kasperi. That pass that led to Heinen's goal was probably one of the best plays that I've seen him make all year. Greg McCann 12 says, "Don't wake up the Penguins. They're a sleeping giant." Yes. This or the Penguin sleeping giant. I think he might be referring to Evgeni Malkin there. Yeah. Teams want to keep screwing with him. Do it at your own peril. I mean, I so badly wanted him to tee up the slap shot that we saw in 2009, the great Joe Beninati call. Evgeni Malkin says, "Take that." And then it pans to Mike Richards, on one knee after he hit him. And then Malkin had that amazing slap shot goal in that series against the Flyers. It was just, that was amazing. I try to watch that goal all the time if I can. I should say as much as I can. And I'm trying to make sure that I get the game right. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure the game number right. Well, I'm gonna do that after the listener takeaways here. Irish AJ says Friedman gives the team some edge, and to me, they play better, tighter, sounder D with Friedman versus Matheson. I definitely understand that kind of take. Though I will say I think some people might be overreacting to a very small sample size with Friedman. And don't get me wrong, he's been electric since coming in. He's played 3 games. He's had an A+ performance every time. But that said, Matheson's been one of their best defensemen this year. When he's healthy, he's not coming out of my lineup. It would have to be someone else. And, with how the defensemen are playing right now, can we actually, take someone else out for Friedman? Are you going to take Pettersson out? I think he's been pretty good. Maybe if Dumoulin continues to struggle, I could see that. But would Chris Letang really want to play without his partner? Probably not, right? Chad Weedle, he's been steady as ever. John Marino, he's starting to turn it around a little bit. So, I just, when the D is healthy, I still think he's probably a number 7 option, which is fine. But I think that also says to me that they don't have to go out and get another defenseman on the trade market. I've seen that take flown around. I don't agree with it. Overreacting habit says great game all around, minus that bad pass by 58. The 5-on-3 wasn't very good. Yeah, the 5-on-3 was kind of I kind of said it to myself at the time, like, okay, hopefully Tampa Bay doesn't make a massive push after this because they can score goals in bunches. That did not happen. The Penguins were able to take it to them the rest of that period. But I thought the power play was still fine outside of that 5-on-3. I'm not super worried. Wesley Reed says Mark Friedman should be a regular in the lineup. That is my takeaway. Yeah, I mean, I get it. Trust me. He's been awesome the last 3 games. I was just telling, obviously, Irish AJ this. But I personally still think when healthy, he's a perfectly fine number 7. I don't see who I would take out of the defensive corp at this point. That's my opinion, though. And of course, my dog continues to whine. Teddy, you want to stop whining for me as I recorded the show? Thank you. Hopefully she stops. Alan T. Yoder says, wonder what John Cooper thinks of this team when they're more healthy than they were opening night. Yes. He did say after opening night that his team did not even come close to deserving to win. So I am curious to see what he does say after the game for this. He also says, such a weird game, but wow, this team is so much fun to watch. Hopefully they can keep up this energy tomorrow to make up some more ground since Carolina lost. As big of a Tana fan as I was, I think McGinn is better and Malkin has been awesome. Yeah, 100% agree with all of those takes. And yeah, the Penguins are right back in action on Friday night. I do have a small announcement to end the show with. So it looks like for the first time since I started hosting this show, I'm going to try to make a trip to Pittsburgh for the final game of the regular season. I believe that is April 29th at home against the Columbus Blue Jackets. If any of you all are going, just, let me know, send me a message on any of my social media channels, comment on the YouTube page. I would love to meet as many of you, obviously, as I can. We can, talk about whatever. I believe I'm going with one of my very dear friends, Rachel. She is just, great person and an even better friend. She lives in the city and, she, it's funny. She doesn't root for the Penguins, but, she still goes to a lot of games just because she loves hockey. So it'll be really fun to do that. And hopefully, again, I can meet some of you all at the game if you all are going. But that'll do it for this one for the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am back on Friday night for another full game recap against the Carolina Hurricanes. It's going to be awesome. 2 best teams in the division going at it. We'll see if Mike Sullivan decides to start Tristan again. As for a Teddy Blooger update, I'll leave you all with this. I think he's probably going to go Tuesday against Florida. I know I kind of said maybe a little differently on my last episode, but I think Mike Sullivan wants him to have a couple more full contact practices. He'll be able to do that after the game on Friday. And Sullivan also said that Jason Zucker is very close to getting back onto the ice and is not far behind Blooger. So good injury updates there. Again, big win tonight. Penguins are 3 points out of first place in the Metro, and they'll look to make it 1 on Friday against Carolina. I will talk to you all then. Have a great rest of your night.